You'll know when you have a wild woman. She'll practice her craft without boundaries. She is truly autonomous.
Her loyalty is only to the family she serves, a midwife who will not allow herself to be held back by a system she didn't create.
This podcast is for the birth keepers who want to grow and change. We are open to learning through self-reflection and supportive community. We are creating this space to explore without judgment. We are remembering we were
Born wild.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Born Wild podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sophia, and we have two guest appearances. We have one of the OG hosts, Emma, is with us again today, and she's very, very sleepy. She just barely was able to drag herself out of bed. She was out of birth all night, she said.
Hi, fam. You have my morning voice.
We have with us Lydia, though, and Emma's recording this with me because Lydia's Emma's client. And again, we had recorded Carly's birth story, and it was kind of the same thing where they're like, wait a minute, I want Emma, but she's not licensed. So what do? I guess I'll hire Sophia. And now we all love each other.
Yep.
Yeah, so I wanted to, if you hear any like whimpering or anything, I have my little puppy dog on my lap, so hopefully he'll just fall asleep. But yeah, you have a lot of birth stories, so let's just dive right in. You can introduce yourself to the listeners, and we can start at whatever the beginning is for you: conception, pregnancy, when you knew you wanted to be a mom, whatever that is.
So my name is Lydia, and I have 4 kids ranging in age from 13 all the way down to 6 months, which is pretty wild because we're going through like the 2 under 2s, and then we've got like the teen and preteen situation going on. So we have like,
you know all of our futures. Like,
oh my gosh, we've got 2 different dynamics going on at the same time in the house, which is really, really fun. Kind of starting back at my first 2 pregnancies, those were in the hospital. So it's very much different than my last 2 that I just had within the last couple of years. With the first one, well, I mean, I kind of always knew I wanted to be a mom. That was always clear to me. And so, but I did get pregnant young, in my first marriage. I was 20 when I got pregnant and 21 when I had her. So that's, it's not like terribly young, but I was still kind of a baby and had a lot of growing up to do. And when you have a baby, that you have to grow up a lot. So with her, just kind of fast forwarding more towards the end of the pregnancy, I was 39 weeks pregnant. It had been a pretty normal, healthy pregnancy, but I started having pretty severe swelling. And so they wanted to do the protein test, the really fun 24-hour urine where you have to have a jug of your pee in the fridge for a day, and it's kind of gross.
Because they were wanting to rule out preeclampsia.
They were exactly. They were wanting to rule out preeclampsia. So my protein levels were elevated. I don't really know that they were terribly severe, but I think it was just kind of like, she's 39 weeks. She's about to be 40 weeks. Let's just induce her. And so going into an induction, I really didn't know what to expect. We got to the hospital at like 8 at night, and I have no knowledge whatsoever of what's about to happen to me. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to have a baby in a few hours. Totally not the case. Like inductions do not happen immediately. It's a process. And so, the next day by like 1:00, things were really starting to ramp up. And I kind of wanted to see if I could do it on my own or how far I could get before getting any pain medication. And I'm mentioning this particular part of the story because I'm going to reference it later. But they went to break my water. And once they broke my water, it was like, for me, all hell broke loose. The pain was so intense. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I know Pitocin doesn't help on top of that. It makes everything so much more intense. Mm-hmm. And so once they broke my water, I got an epidural probably about an hour later. And she was,
it's just that like whole cascade of interventions.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So A couple hours later, I felt like the very intense need to push, and 2 hours of pushing later, she was born. And then 2.5 years later, I got pregnant again. And I felt like going into the pregnancy, they were already kind of labeling me as a high risk pregnancy because they had labeled me as preeclamptic with the first pregnancy. Even though I don't necessarily know that to be true, and I've never known that to be true, because I didn't have really any of the other signs that screamed preeclampsia other than just some elevated protein levels. So, the one interesting thing that happened with my pregnancy with Lauren, my second born, was that when I went to do the glucose testing, I failed the first time around because we all know that sugary drink is just a cocktail of just toxin, awful stuff. So I failed that and had to do the 3-hour one, and I failed that one. And so they said that I had gestational diabetes. That never sat right with me. I never felt like I actually had gestational diabetes, yet I had to go through the process of pricking my finger 3 times a day, writing down what all my numbers were, watching what I ate. But every time I'd prick my finger, my numbers were always completely normal. So it just never sat right with me. I never thought I have gestational diabetes. And then when I was around 37 weeks pregnant, kind of started having some swelling again. And they did lab tests and whatnot, and they decided to induce me at 37 weeks. And I had an epidural again because I thought, okay, before my water gets broken, I want to get an epidural because that was where my head was at. I was so terrified of the water breaking moment because I remembered from the first labor that is when it just became so unbearable for me. And so I got my epidural, and then they broke my water, and she was born a few hours later. So it never sat well with me. I never really felt like I had gestational diabetes or preeclampsia. I kind of felt like those 2 labor and deliveries were somewhat out of my control. I didn't really feel like I had control over them whatsoever, or necessarily a say. But I just kind of put it behind me because I had 2 healthy babies, and that was what mattered the most. Fast forwarding like 8 years later.
Sorry, Lydia.
No,
did you ever, in those experiences, I know you were younger and it was like a different time for you, but when you had those babies in the hospital, was there ever a moment where you're like, wow, I really wish I would have pursued maybe having a home birth, or like maybe
no,
different?
Like, when did home birth come into your vision?
Home birth would not even have come into my mind until fast forward, I met my now husband, Chris. If you had told me then that 9 years later I would be having my first of 2 home births, I would have said, you are insane. There is no way. Like, oh, you had a natural labor, good for you. I like that was my mindset. Very much not like that was never a thought that would have even crossed my mind. So to have such a huge change from the first 2 births to the last 2 births, that was very, very different for me. But how we got there, fast forward to quite a few years later, I'm a single mom of 2, and I'm on the prowl. I'm ready to date. And I am on dating apps for the first time ever, which is like not how it was when I was originally dating. Dating apps are very much a different animal, but I got super lucky. I will tell anybody that I won the lottery, and I met my husband pretty quickly.
Which app did you use, just for anyone listening?
I used Bumble.
Bumble. Yeah,
Bumble.
things about Bumble.
With Bumble, the female has to initiate the conversation. And so, my opening line was hi, was, definitely
catchy.
If anybody wants to use that as their opening line, I'll let you borrow that one. I said hi. But it definitely, everything just flowed from there. But I saw in his, description, his profile, that he was a chiropractor. And what's really funny is my family has always been like, we're super Western medical, like, my parents would say, or not my parents, but just my family in general, chiropractors are quacks, what they do isn't real. And so I'm like, oh, well, he's a chiropractor, but at least I can Google him and see that he has a business. I know I'm going on a date with somebody who I actually like know where I can hunt him down, because dating is scary. and
Yeah.
it's new and it's different. So anyway, long story short, meeting Chris, my husband, it was just one of those things where it was like, oh, you're the person I've been waiting my whole life for. Like everything just flowed naturally, like right away. And which was really incredible. So I started kind of slowly inching my way into the holistic world because, you know, chiropractors are all in. You know, that's
catch up, girl.
that is the life. What I love very much about Chris is I think he didn't really want to, like, I hate to use the word indoctrinate, but he didn't want to push everything on me. So he wanted me to choose that holistic life on my own, or even just see if I would choose that, because it is a different route. We live a different lifestyle in a lot of ways. And so what he would kind of like crack a door open, you know, and then it was up to me to push the door open fully and look, you know, he would give me some ideas, and then it was up to me to do more research and ask more questions. And so like the first thing I gave up was my aluminum deodorant, like good old deodorant detox.
Yeah.
We've all been there. You
Yeah.
know, and then like, oh, we don't use toothpaste with fluoride. Okay, never gonna make that mistake again. Don't buy toothpaste with fluoride. Got it. Little things like that. We only use water that is out of the triple filtered, you know, osmosis. Don't even rinse the veggies with tap water. Okay. Got it. Like it's a process. But within the first few months of dating, we started talking about having kids, because it was just so, like, when you know, it was just very apparent. And I knew I wanted to have kids with him like pretty quickly. Because I'd seen him in his office, of course, and I'd seen him around other kids, and he's just natural and wonderful with them. And so I just felt like this guy is meant to be a dad, and I want to make him a dad.
Yeah. I love it.
We started talking about, I had an IUD at the time. And so we started talking about conscious conception, which was a whole new thought for me. It's like, oh, you don't just decide to get pregnant and start trying. Like, no, we're going to prepare my body to get pregnant. And so, he was like, okay, it's time to start talking about taking that birth control out. And so that was, you know, that took a lot of trust, because, you know, anyway, so in December of 2019, I had my IUD out, and just started to really visualize and think about our baby, and start preparing my body, detoxing, chiropractic. I was seeing a couple different chiropractors, because as you guys know, there's different techniques. So I was seeing a chiropractor who works really on emotional stuff, breathing, just really eliminating stress from my body, because I had a lot of stress, to be honest. There was a lot going on over my last couple years prior.
And unprogramming, you know.
Exactly. Unprogramming is like the perfect word. So we went, kind of the trip that kind of was pivotal for us is we went to Kauai in March, right before all the COVID stuff went down. And we just had a really amazing trip as a couple. It was like that magical, we didn't know at the time that was going to be our honeymoon, but that was totally our honeymoon. It was really magical. And we did like some amazing hikes. I did this one particular hike and got up to the top of this waterfall, and I was like, I'm supposed to jump into this waterfall right now. And so like I swam in the waterfall and all this stuff. It was very spiritual. It was amazing. And we came home, and 6 weeks later, we had a nice dinner, a bottle of wine. You guys know how it works. We were just having a great night, and it happened. And it was the first time precautions had not been taken. And I knew immediately, I'm like, okay, I just got pregnant. It was our first try, and I just knew I just got pregnant. But what's interesting is for Chris, he like it was such a spiritual experience for him, especially. He was like, I just felt this rush of energy. Like he knew that it had happened too. And so, you know, fast forward a couple weeks later, it was Mother's Day. And my period was supposed to start that day. And so I had taken a pregnancy test the day before, and it was negative. And, but I was like, no, I know I'm pregnant. Like, it's just not time yet. And so the next day on Mother's Day, I kept having this repetitive dream that I woke up, took a pregnancy test, it was positive. And then it just kept happening over and over again, this same dream. I woke up, took a pregnancy test, it was positive. So it probably happened 6 times I had this dream in a row. And I finally did actually wake up, and I went and I took a pregnancy test, and it was positive.
That's so sweet that you found out on Mother's Day.
That was the coolest thing. And what was
Yes.
really neat too is we were at Chris's mom's house. We went down to spend Mother's Day weekend with her. So we were in his like childhood bedroom, and I went, snuck across the hall, took the pregnancy test, snuck back into his room. And I'm like, I didn't even know what to say. I was like, even though I knew it was going to happen, I was just like shocked. And so I told him we were thrilled. We went downstairs. We told his mom on Mother's Day that he was going to be having his first baby. It was really, really special. And so life just kind of took off from there, because we were only living together half time, because his apartment he was in at the time wasn't big enough to have my kids as well, and I have them half of the time. So it was like a lot happened at once. Okay, time for us to buy in a bigger house. Like, we're going to start living together full time now instead of half time, which was wonderful. And we found a home to live in, and everything just fell into place. And then it was time to find a midwife. And so we met our midwife based on some recommendations. And one of her students was Emma. And
so I'm curious how because you were saying how Chris like kind of opened, like cracked the door, and then you search like you had decided before you were trying to conceive, like when we conceive, we want to have a home birth. Like you finally got on board. Why? Like, why did you decide on that?
Well, I started looking into like what an epidural actually is and does to you. And, thinking about the idea of having a birth at home and how peaceful and lovely that sounds. And what's really funny actually is Jim Gaffigan, the comedian, has a hilarious joke about, oh, you don't want to wear a hospital gown that someone died in yesterday. When you actually start thinking about things in that way, and as far as like going into it and going into having kids with him, I knew we're going to be having an all natural home birth. That's how it's going to be. And I chose that because that's not only what I wanted it, but I also wanted him, and I loved him, and I want to have his kids. And so it was just like that. It just all fell into place for me. And I just knew like women have been giving birth since the dawn of time, and naturally. I am capable of doing this. Plus my body's already done it twice. But of course I had some, the only things that I was kind of worried about with my pregnancy with Axis, that's our son who's 22 months old today. He's gonna be 2 in January. I can't believe it. The only things that I was concerned about were my previous labels as a high risk, quote unquote, pregnancy. And just kind of knowing that we were going to have little to no medical intervention. But I really had to trust the process and know that if anything came up that looked suspicious throughout the pregnancy, that it would be handled from there. So we went through the process, obviously, with midwife visits and everything like that. And truly my relationship with Emma just kind of got closer and closer. And I bonded with her really quickly. And I think that's so important. Like you have to bond with the person who's going to be with you during your labor and delivery. You have to have that trust with them. You can't necessarily go off of referrals from other people, or, your best friend had this person, and so that person's going to work for you. That's just not how it works. When you're going into having a baby, and whether it be your midwife or your doula or anyone who's going to be with you during the process, it has to be someone who you have, as Emma and I say, the feeling.
The feeling.
You have to have the feeling, because that is the person that when you are stuck in the middle of absolute hell, if you will, the worst of the contractions, you look into their eyes and like, it's going to be okay. I can do this. And for me, that was just Emma. And so
so sweet.
It's true. It's so important. I have a friend who's on the hunt for a doula, and unfortunately Emma couldn't be that doula to her, and maybe Emma wasn't supposed to be that doula to her, you just don't know. And she was like, we're talking about all these different things, and I'm like, you have to have the feeling. You need to have the feeling. The feeling is so important. You need to have that bond with that person, because that trust is so important.
Kind of like interview and shop around until you leave your interview and you're like, oh my God, I can't wait to see her again. Like, I want to see her all the time.
You feel that friendship, and that's so important. So my Labor Day came with Axie, January 9th, 2021.
And so your pregnancy,
so pregnancy was good and normal, and no, we of course talked about the fact that I had been I'm labeled with preeclampsia and gestational diabetes with my 2 previous pregnancies. The only test that I elected to do while I was pregnant with Axie was, and we call Axis Axie, was the glucose testing. But of course, it's where you make a shake with more natural ingredients. Yes, super sugary. And then you do your own blood test at home. And my numbers were perfectly normal. So I'm pretty certain that it's just that drink that they give you at the hospital that my body does not like.
Yeah.
So everything was normal from there. And I didn't elect for any other testing. I just was going along and trusting the process as well as I could. It wasn't always easy. It was hard. We had Emma was there. Had no ultrasounds. There was some question about size of baby and whether or not we were accurate with our date of conception, which I never should have doubted, because Chris and I both knew the night we got pregnant. Like, there was no doubt in our mind, and we were exactly right. Don't doubt yourself. That's one of the biggest things I can say. Do trust your mama gut.
And surround yourself with people who encourage you to not doubt yourself.
Correct. Because
that make you doubt yourself.
Yes, because you need that support. So everything though else was normal and good, and I had no swelling or anything unusual. It was a really healthy pregnancy. And I was working out a ton because at 5 months pregnant, Chris and I got married.
Yes, tell that story.
We got married in Vegas by Elvis in the height of COVID. It was COVID time, but we were so blessed, like 20 plus members of our friends and family were able to make it. And it's so funny because you think like getting married by Elvis is going to be one big joke. And I mean, while it was so funny and fun, it was also really sweet and endearing, and there was a lot of love there. It was really, really special. So we got married by Elvis in Vegas, and it was a total blast.
And that kind of just like wraps up your and Chris's relationship. You know, like super sweet and like also funny.
And just also like what I love so much about Chris is he's just like, he's kind of brought me down from like being a stressor and a worrier, and just like, you know, life can be just fun and life can be relaxed, and it doesn't have to, you know, we don't have to ruin moments in life because something didn't go exactly the way we planned it to go. We just need to go with the flow. And
are you saying you're a type A?
I don't know.
Never would have guessed.
I don't know, right? A control freak. Emma, what would you say about me being an Aries?
Oh yeah, yes, you are textbook Aries.
Yeah,
I'm like, of course you are.
But we were both, Chris and I, like, I don't know very much about signs. I know you do, Emma. Chris and I are both fire signs, so everything is just hot and crazy. But hot and fast. Hot and fast.
I like it.
The perfect description. So I'm coming to my first all natural home labor. I'm around 9:30 in the morning. I started getting those undeniable contractions, which is so funny because even with just giving birth to the last one, Charlotte, the day before I was like, oh, these contractions feel real. This is it. But you know when it's actually starting, you know, like you want to convince yourself these are the contractions. This is it. But when it's actually on, it's on.
You kind of do the same thing every time where you're like, but how will I know?
Yeah, exactly. Like I had just given with Charlotte 6 months ago, I had just given birth 16 months prior, but I was still like, is this it? Oh, the contractions are ending. It's like, relax.
If you're asking, is this it? It's not it.
It's not it. No, exactly.
Yeah.
So Emma came over to be with me for the day, and I labored throughout the day. At home, which was wonderful. My older kids weren't here, which was good. The house was nice and quiet and peaceful, and that's how I wanted it. Although I will say this, you may have ideas of what you want to have going on in the home, or you might have an idea of who you want to be there, but sometimes not until you're in it, you don't really know what you need. Actually, you know what? I did have the kids that day, and I decided I needed them gone. That's how it was. I needed them gone. I needed the house quiet. And so I labored when I was checked in the morning, which some people don't elect to do that. I elected to be checked. And I was at 3 centimeters in the morning. And so it was just like, okay, it's probably going to be today. It could be tomorrow. And let's just see what happens. And so Emma came to be with me, and she was with me all day and just had so many amazing words of encouragement for me. And we worked through the day together. I tried to eat a little bit, store up some energy, because I had actually been sick. Chris and I both had been sick the 2 days prior to me giving birth. It was really bizarre. I had like a fever and full-blown body aches and headache. And I don't know if my body was just like, you're about to go into labor, so you need to get something out of you. So I was already exhausted because I'd been sick for a couple of days prior. And as you know, you need that energy going into a full-blown labor. So throughout the day, labored, and then by the evening around, I want to say 10 o'clock at night. Am I missing anything, Emma, or is this like?
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Did you have any fears about your water breaking and it being like really intense?
Thank you for bringing that up. Yes.
Yeah.
I definitely, that's always been the thought in my mind. Like, once my water breaks or is broken, that is when it is going to become unbearable for me. And I wish that I could have learned even up to this last labor that I could just put that to the side and just move on. Don't stress about it. No matter what, your water's going to break and you're going to have the baby. But yeah, I definitely had a lot of fears and reservations regarding that. But one thing I wanted was for my water to break on its own. That was something really important to me. I wanted to have the labor, because my 2 previous ones had been completely induced. I really wanted to have my own fully natural, uninterrupted labor and delivery. But when she checked me around 10 o'clock at night, I was at 3 centimeters still. And you can imagine how disappointing that is, because I've spent 13 hours already basically in labor. And for me, I'm like, oh, my water hasn't even broken yet. And that was really hard. And I was so exhausted from being sick the 2 days prior. And so we had the option, my waters can be broken and we can see if that speeds things up. It may or may not, we'll see. Or we can wait and see what happens. And even Chris agreed with me. Like, I wanted to have my waters broken. And I don't regret that decision whatsoever. I felt like everything happened the way it was meant to. And I was no regrets about that. Chris was even in agreement with me, like, we need to get things rolling here. I was exhausted. So my waters were broken, and I went back into that lovely left side lying position that I had been in all day. My absolute least favorite position, but seems to be the position that gets babies out of me. And so the position that works, I went back to left side lying, and it was everything I remembered it to be. Like, when the water breaks, for me personally, it's just like, baby's there, baby's coming, at least for me personally. But I just breathe through it, just breathe. I can get through this. But in my head's trying to tell me, you're only 6 centimeters right now. You're only, like, thinking that it's happening slower than it actually was. And so I was laying alone in bed, just in the dark, just trying to get through it. Chris was in the kitchen. Funny story, his family has camped at this same lake for literally 40 years. His grandpa discovered this place, and it's where they go. It's called Lake Whiskey Town. And so we had been the summer prior pregnant, and we brought home a water bottle of water. And I wanted to have a water birth. My pool had been set up all day for me. And so Chris was in the kitchen. I'm like, you know what? You need to go defrost the water bottle. It's been in the freezer for all these months. You need to go, like, get the water going so we can put it in the tub, which I had not even gotten into all day because it just didn't feel right. And so he was in the kitchen trying to figure out how to defrost the water, to boil it, because obviously we want to sanitize it to put in the pool. I'm laying in bed, and this is not a TMI podcast, right? Like,
no. Have you met us?
I know, right? So, funny story, I hadn't gone to the bathroom number 2 for like 2 days prior. And so I had been telling Emma, I'm going to poop. I just know it. I'm going to go. It's going to happen in the tub. And she's like, if it happens, I've got the net. Don't stress about it.
Scoop it up.
She's like, I'll scoop it up. You won't even see it. So I'm laying in bed. And of course, this is the first time I've experienced an actual natural labor. And I literally got this horrific pain. And I, without even thinking, I just yelled out, Emma, help. I think I'm going to poop.
Yeah.
And so she comes into the room, and Emma's just always so chill and calm. Like she just looks at me, and she's like, and I'm like, I think I'm going to poo. And she's like, okay, that's great. Let's go to the toilet. She's like, you can poop. Gravity will be good for you, she said. So I'm like, okay. So we go into my bathroom. which by the way is super small. Like I have a huge tub, but like the toilet area itself, as you guys know, is very small. And so I sit down on the toilet and then I scream again because it feels like a baseball is coming out of me. And this is where I learned that the pain is a lot less vaginal. It is like, that's what I was thinking it was going to be, like vagina pain. No, not at all. Not for me, at least. So I like screamed out and I looked at her and I'm like, is it okay for me to push? Like, can I push a poo right now? Is it like, is it going to hurt the baby or anything? Like, I was scared. And she hunkers down and looks. And the next thing I know, she yells, crowning. And so in that moment, my whole mentality changed. I had this really amazing shift and it hit me. I'm like, oh my gosh. And by the way, we didn't know Axie's gender. He was going to be a surprise, even though we felt really strongly that it was a boy. We just knew. And so I just, my mentality, I switched. I knew this is it. You don't have to go through labor anymore. You don't have to go through contractions anymore. This is it. You just need to push the baby out. I had pushed my second daughter out in 3 minutes. The first one took 2 hours. The second one took 3 minutes. I can get this baby out. This is it. And so it was amazing. Chris came in and he switched places with Emma. And we didn't really know how Chris was going to do. He doesn't really handle blood very well. And he actually almost passed out when they broke my water just from the sound of it because it was so intense. And so we didn't really know how it was going to go. Well, like an absolute champion, like he'd been delivering babies his whole life. He just switched positions with Emma, was ready to catch, looked me in the eyes. We had this super like lovey-dovey moment of just like, oh my God, it's happening. Our baby's here. And he coached me through it, which was so special. You know, Emma and a midwife like were peeking in the door, just watching, but it just was happening naturally between the two of us, which was so special. And just a couple of gentle pushes and Chris lifted up the baby and we just see this humongous set of balls and we're like, oh my God, it's our boy.
Yeah.
We knew. He Simba'd him up into the air and
yes.
it was so amazing. So Axie was born and like a freak, I just stood right up and walked to bed. You know, like once it's over, it's over, you know. I'm like, okay, I'm good. No tears, nothing. It was wonderful. Emma took care of me and took care of everything. And that's what I love most about home birth is I went and got back in my own bed.
Right.
And that's, oh my gosh, there's nothing like that. And I'm not in a hospital bed. There's no beeps, there's no dings. I'm in control of everything. I'm being taken care of. I don't have to worry about anything. And so it was wonderful. And I knew at the time we were going to do it again. We were going to have another baby. And so I kind of kept my focus like, okay, that wasn't your last one. So don't get too comfortable. You survived this one. You can do it again. And so, should I just fast forward to Charlotte?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Was there anything to say about breastfeeding? Was it pretty smooth?
No, honestly, like
pretty smooth.
Access was such a champion. He latched right on and nursed like he'd been doing it his whole life. And it was really funny because my husband really wanted to co-sleep and I was like very much against co-sleeping. I'm like, no, trained to be in the crib. And then at a year old, they're in their own room and that's that. And he was like, no, we're gonna co-sleep. And so we have been co-sleeping with him and it ended up being like the greatest thing in the world. Like when you love your husband so dearly and it was just like, oh my gosh, everything about it was so wonderful to wake up in the morning and have this precious little person between us and just look at each other and just like, oh, it's so special. So we were co-sleeping with Axie and I loved everything about that so much. And he still joins us from time to time. Now we're mostly co-sleeping with Charlotte. But so we everything went smoothly there. And then moving on, we definitely knew that we were going to have another one, but it was just kind of deciding when that was going to happen. Adjusting to life with 3, it was honestly no big deal to me. The 2 older girls, you know, their work in their own way, but they're also independent in a lot of ways. So that's helpful. And having a baby again was so exciting and wonderful for the whole family because we hadn't had a baby in so long in the family. So 10 years basically since we had a baby. And so he definitely became the prince right away. So when we started talking about when we would have another one, I had said, okay, well, I have a baby that was born in the winter, I have a baby that was born in spring, and I have a baby that was born in summer. So I want to have a fall baby. So then I can have a baby for every season. And Chris was like, yeah, that sounds good. And so we were going to start trying in January of this year. And so the months were going on. Axis was born in January 9th of 21. The months were going on, and August came around, and that's Chris's birthday. And I started getting really weepy and emotional in the first week of August. And I'm like, why am I so weepy and emotional? What is going on with me? No, I'm not pregnant yet. But I'm thinking, what is going on? And then I started feeling like, I feel like the spirit of our next baby is near me. And I've never said anything like that in my entire life. It's so not me. But I was like crying and telling Chris, like, I feel like our next baby is near. And so on August 19th, try number 2 happened. And I didn't know it was going to happen until it was happening. Because I had been using, I hadn't gone back on birth control, of course. I was using an app called Natural Cycles, which I really love and totally promote natural cycles. You take your temperature every morning, you put the information into the app, and it runs all the algorithms for you. So it lets you know when your period is supposed to be, when you're supposed to be ovulating. It's just, I really love that app a lot. It gives you red days and green days. So I tell Chris, this is a red day. So
I'll link that in the show notes.
I really like.
So was that a post-conception conscious conception?
Correct. That was a post-conception conscious. Yes, that's a tongue twister. Oh my gosh. So and I knew again, so 2 tries, 2 babies. I knew again, like, oh my gosh, I definitely just got pregnant, especially because for me, it was this time I had the spiritual, emotional experience where he had more of the spiritual, emotional rush of energy with our son. I had it with what would end up being our daughter. And I really wanted to find out a couple weeks later, my period's supposed to be there. He's getting ready for work in the mornings. And the night before, actually, I'm so sorry. The night before, we were on the couch, me and Chris and Axie didn't want to cuddle with me. And I'm like, this is odd, because Axie, he loves Dada, but he always is cuddly with mommy before bed. And so he went over to snuggle with Chris, and I told Chris he doesn't want to sit with us girls. And that was a very profound statement that I said. Because the next morning, because I had been feeling like if I was pregnant that it was a girl, because I felt like it was, everything about it felt feminine when I got pregnant. It's hard to explain. It just felt like this feminine, gentle, sweet spirit, which is exactly who Charlotte is, which is amazing. So the next morning he was leaving for work, and he's like, are you going to take a pregnancy test today? And I'm like, no, it's too early. He walks out the door, and I'm taking a pregnancy test. Because I'm like, this time I want to do something special for him instead of walking in shocked and shaking with a pregnancy test, which I did for Axis. So I took a pregnancy test. There's those 2 lines. And so I called my sister, and she has a Cricut. I don't know if you guys know what that is. That's you can make custom shirts and whatnot and all sorts of things. And so I'm like, I need a Big Brother shirt. And she's like, oh my God. Every time I get pregnant, my sister's like, here we go again. And then guess what? My sister falls so madly in love with the baby, and that baby becomes her baby. So I've learned, now that I've had 4 times to tell my sister that I'm pregnant, I've learned that even though her initial reaction is, oh my God, here we go. She's 9 months later, she is, cannot detach herself from the baby. So, she made a big bro shirt for Axie, and that day we had an appointment that we needed to get to. So I was waiting at the door at 11 for him to walk in the door so that we could leave for this appointment. But because I wanted him to see the Big Brother shirt, I couldn't wait. So Axie was sitting on the carpet, and I had the camera set up recording. And, you kind of think it's going to be this magical moment that you see, other gender reveals. So Chris opens the door, and he always greets Axie, but yelling, my boy, and Axie gets all excited. So he walks in, and he's like, my boy. And then he looks at me, and he goes, I have to poop. And I'm like,
and you're recording.
I'm recording. I'm like, I'm about to tell you that we're having our second baby. And then I'm like, oh, would you pick up Axie? And he goes, I have to poop. I'm like, and in my head, I'm thinking, how am I going to edit this to post online? Because He's telling me over and over again how bad he has to go poo. There's so much poo involved in our why? Why? This is real life. And so anyway, long story short, he picks up Axie. He sees the shirt and he's like, "You're pregnant." And it was so very exciting. And so one of my first calls that I made was to Emma. I started FaceTiming her and I'm like, "What are you doing in 9 months?" Is that what I said? Something along those lines. Like, "What are you doing in 9 months?" And she knew, like, if I'm calling her, like if I'm FaceTiming her, then I'm definitely about to tell her the big news. And I knew after my labor and delivery with Axie that if Emma was still a student, whoever she was with was my midwife. If Emma was licensed, she was my midwife. Emma was going to be at my next birth. End of story. She was my person. We had the feeling. And so Emma was with you, Sophia, and it was total love at first sight with you, Sophia. I have to say, I have the feeling for you. I want you to know it was not just Emma. I have the feeling for you, Sophia, and I just loved you right away. And one of my favorite things about you, Sophia, is that if I ever need a resource for something, you're just like, "Yep, your iPhone's already out. You're already emailing me. Oh, you want a resource on how to, naturally heal a cavity? Got it. You want a resource on how to deworm yourself? Got it."
It's so funny because I have students who are like, "I'm so shocked at how many people reach out to you during a day that are completely unrelated to midwifery."
Yeah.
But
that's Sophia. She's got it all.
And it really is just because I have a horrible memory, and so I have to like organize it all. I just forget it all myself.
You do not have to tell people that. Just accept your greatness.
Yes,
you are the best. You are an amazing resource. I'm so thankful to have you. So immediately met Sophia, obviously fell in love, and home visits started. And my goal really for this pregnancy was to just have it be oh gosh, the word's escaping me, and I know it's right there, but I have 202 and I don't sleep at night. So I wanted zero intervention, like the least amount of intervention humanly possible is what I wanted for this one. And I was not going to stress myself out about any kind of blood tests or anything like that. I knew if something doesn't feel right, then we'll go from there. But everything felt really good. And so the pregnancy went on. Of course, we had I really wanted to find out the gender of our baby with this one. I was so sure it was a girl. I can't tell you why. I just really wanted to find out for sure that it was a girl. And Chris is like, did not want to find out what the baby was. So he's a really big sucker for like cute things, like Instagram moments. And so I knew if I could come up with like the perfect thing that he would go for. So I was like, what if we went to Disneyland and we had like, we did the blood test to find out the gender, and we went to Disneyland with the results in an envelope, and we went to the Mad Hatter, if you guys are Disney people, and had a hat made with the baby's name on it. And then Axie pulls the hat out of the bag in front of the castle. And he was like, "Oh crap."
Yeah, how can you say no to that?
How can you say no to that? And so we did exactly as I planned. It took about a month of me just kind of, what I do with Chris when I really, really want something is I just act as if it's already happening.
Yes.
Yes. And then he eventually just goes along with it. Like when we got married in Vegas, like we had already had that trip to Vegas planned pre-even pregnancy. And I'm like, we should get married when we're in Vegas. We're definitely getting married when we're in Vegas. So with this one, I'm like, okay, so should I book the Disney trip? Because, and I should do the blood test at this many weeks, like, just acting as if it was already happening. And then he agrees. So we did, of course, exactly as I said, everything happened. And we found out that it was a girl. It was our Charlotte. And we were just like, so thrilled. 2 for 2. We were so sure with Axis that it was a boy, and Charlotte was a girl. And that was just really cool. And I don't say all that to say, like, just because you don't guess something right, if you're so sure you're going to have a girl and then you have a boy or vice versa, like, don't beat yourself up like you weren't in tune. But it was cool that's how it worked out. And so super normal, wonderful, healthy pregnancy. I didn't have anything come up with me emotionally that made me feel like I needed to have any special tests or anything like that done. And so I had just intervention free the whole way. And but I did really want certain things. I wanted my water to break on its own. I really wanted to achieve that. And I wanted to have a water birth. And so the day of Charlotte's birth came on May 1st of this year, May Day. awesome day to be born.
Yes.
And I let Emma and Sophia know. What was really cool is Axie hadn't slept through the night before. And so in the weeks leading up to my labor and delivery, I was like crying to Chris, like, when am I ever going to sleep? Axie doesn't sleep through the night. We're going to have a newborn. Like, I'm going to be so exhausted. What am I going to do? And so that was like one of my biggest stressors. And Chris, as always, is like, the universe is going to take care of it. Don't stress. The universe knows. The universe. And I'm like, yeah, the universe. Okay. But like, when am I going to sleep? So we have this joke where I say that Chris is like annoyingly right about almost everything. I say that he's right a lot of the time, but a lot of the times not always. But with this one, he was right. I woke up on May 1st around 6:30 in the morning, and my first thought was, oh my gosh, this is a real contraction. Like, it's happening. My second thought was, where's Axie? Why is he not in our bed with us? He had slept all night in his crib for the first time in his life.
His gift to you.
It was his gift to me. And it was so beautiful, because it's like, he knew, like, mom needs rest for today. And the whole day he was incredible. My mom was there to care for him, and he just stayed in the living room all day, and he was quiet. Like, I didn't even know he was there. He just like knew. But what was neat is Chris was blowing up the tub in our room, and he just sat down in the middle of it. And I have this really amazing video of Chris like inflating the pool, and he's like looking at the air pump, and then he's looking up at Chris, and it's like his little face like knew like something really amazing is happening. And he's 16 months old. He's just this little baby, but it's like, I cherish that so much, because he knew life is about to change and it's good. So my labor was going throughout the day. Emma and Sophia came, and this labor was it was more intense. Like Axie, I felt it was pretty manageable all day. This labor and delivery, I felt like it got a little hot and heavier earlier for me. And it started, around 6 in the morning, started to pick up between 10 and 11. And I had been listening to these awesome meditation videos, and I really wanted them playing while I was in labor. And so we still joke about this. There's this one video, and it kept playing on repeat in here. I know you guys remember it.
Oh, yeah.
At the end, she's going, you are about to meet, like the super relaxing voice, which I loved in the beginning. But then at the end, like after I've heard it so many times, I'm just like, shut up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she
saying
said,
that.
as she said, she goes, you are about to meet your baby. And by the 4th time, I was like, turn it off. I'm done. I have not met my baby. I've heard this 4 times and I have not met my baby yet. But here I am again, where I have been in every other labor. My water hasn't broken. Why hasn't my water broken yet? How long until my water breaks? How long until the baby's going to come after my water breaks? I was so hyper focused, and I so wish that I could have gotten through it totally. I was so focused on my water and why it hadn't broken. And I got in and out of the pool a couple of times, which we found slowed things down. And so then Sophia, in all her wisdom, said, you might want to lay down for a little while, left side lying, and try and get a little rest in between contractions. You're running low on energy, and we'll see how it goes. So I kind of resisted that for a while, and then I felt like that was the right thing to do. I hate left side lying. I hate it. I felt like my back was splitting open. But Emma and Sophia are the best. They come in and hit those pressure points, and that it just felt like you guys were holding me together. And that was so incredible. And so after left side lying for a while, I said I decided I wanted to be checked. And I hadn't wanted to be checked earlier because I didn't want to be discouraged, but I decided I want to be checked right now at this moment, because I'm either going to hear that I'm still not quite there yet, or I'm going to hear that I'm almost there. And that's going to help me decide whether I'm going to stay in this left side lying position, whether I'm going to walk around. Like, it's going to help me decide what I want to do. And so Emma checked me, and she was like, baby is right there. She is right there. It's going to be soon. And that gave me, on top of laying for a while and catching some rest, which you actually can catch some rest in between contractions. You don't think you can, but you can. I caught some rest in between contractions, and that rejuvenated me, as well as hearing the baby is almost here. Like it's very close. She said, you're 9, you could be even 10. Like it's almost there. And so then that just gave me that encouragement, like I can do this. And so after a little more time of lying, I decided I was ready to get back into the water. And at that point, Emma was like, I'll never forget, you were like in front of me, and I was tired, and I get those moments where I feel like I can't breathe, and I just remember looking into your eyes, and it was just like everything to me, because you were reminding me that I could do it when I felt like I was so low on steam. And but I still was just like, but my water hasn't broken. And Sophia, you were saying, the baby could be born in her waters, like lovingly get over it. Right? Like, it doesn't matter that your water hasn't broken yet. That means nothing. And so I'm in the water, and the next thing I know, I feel this massive pop. And I'm like, I think my water just broke. Because it's the first time it's ever happened on its own. And so I know in that moment, Sophia hit record on the video, which is cool. And Chris had been ready to get into the water with me and catch, although about 10 weeks or so, or not 10 weeks, I'm sorry, like 10 days or so before Charlotte was born, I started having this vision that I was going to be the one to pull her out of the water. And I told Chris, I just see myself pulling her out of the water. And so he was like, okay, like he was ready to do whatever I wanted or needed in the moment. So he was kind of like hesitating, like, should I get in the water or not? And he just instinctually knew. He kind of just got down on his knees and just waited. And the next thing, her head like just shot right out of me. As soon as the water broke, she was born 1 minute later. So here I am focusing so hard on my water breaking, and how long and after the water breaks is it going to be until she's born? And she's born 1 minute after her water breaks. Yes. So I say all that to say this: don't let yourself get hyper focused on things like that, because every labor and delivery is different, and everyone's story is different, and how everything works is different. So just trust your body, because it's
a physical thing, but it really can be a mind game too.
Oh, 100%.
Too hung up on where you've been, and so what that means for the future. Like, well, if it took me this long for this, and last time, it took 2 hours after the water breaking, I haven't even. You can just like, it's like, how can you just stay in the moment, because you can't future predict.
You can't, and that very well, I believe, probably slowed me down. Although I don't allow myself to be beat up about it, because all my babies were born healthy, safe, and beautifully. And so you can't beat yourself up, but I definitely would encourage other women, like, try not to focus on, like you said, past and future. And, because my hyper focus was on my water breaking. And guess what? My water broke, and I pushed her out 1 minute later, and I lifted her up out of the water just as I knew I would. And it was just absolutely wonderful. And Axis came into the room after that, and he was just like looking at her, and it was just, it was such a relief, and it was just so exciting and so wonderful and beautiful to see my two little babies just like side by side, and think like, I did this. If you had told me 10 years ago that or anytime leading up to before I met Chris, that I would have had 2 labor and deliveries all naturally, I would have looked at you like you were a crazy person. Like,
why did I do that to myself?
Why would I choose that? But I did, and it was the absolute greatest thing. So beautiful, so wonderful. And now Axis pretty much sleeps through the night almost every night, which is good. It's what I needed. And then there's a lot of times that he joins us in the night, so then we've got all 4 of us in bed, and that's so precious and wonderful. Like I said, now Chris and I wake up and we look at each other, and there's 2 babies between us, and it's just like, oh my gosh, the greatest thing in the world. Now, will we have another? To be continued. At this point, I cannot say one way or the other. But because right now our hands are very full in the best way possible. But yeah, it was wonderful.
Thank you for sharing all your stories. They're so like different and unique, and it kind of like you questioning your like high risk diagnosis kind of disproves it all with those 2 stories, because here you are having these like healthy pregnancies and at an older age, and just
borderline geriatric.
Yeah, and it's just like, you knew that you were healthy, and you just need to be surrounded by people who knew that too.
Yeah, exactly. I think neither of the preeclampsia and the gestational diabetes never sat well with me. I never felt like that was actually happening, but I just kind of trusted the medical community. I trusted what I was being told, but I didn't listen to myself well enough. And that's okay. That's fine. We're here. But my pregnancy with Charlotte was especially extraordinary in the fact that I didn't even do any test whatsoever, because I just knew I'm okay. Everything is fine. She's fine. I'm fine. Nothing feels out of sorts. And if anything had felt out of sorts, I would have had you guys test me for something if I felt that I needed it. But otherwise, everything was good. So,
and sometimes there's this theory too, like that the more you dig, you're bound to find something. And
exactly.
maybe it wasn't even going to be a big deal, but now it's a thing, and now you have to follow up, and
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you again. If anybody wants to reach out to you, how can they connect with you? And we'll leave all that in the show notes.
Oh, they're definitely welcome to send me an email if they want to, if they have any questions about, anything from my hospital births to my natural births and how I got, from one to the other, from one place to the other, because it is such two different extremes, to be, induced to then having natural labors at home without fear of, the diagnoses that I'd had before. So yeah, absolutely. I'm totally open to being reached out to by anyone who may have any questions.
Cool. We'll leave that in the show notes. And then also shout out to Chris's chiropractic if anybody's in the area.
Yes, in the Windsor area. My husband is a chiropractor, which, by the way, chiropractic during pregnancy is absolutely, you have to have it. Hands down, it is the best. With the first two pregnancies having no chiropractic care at all, to then with the last two, my body felt so good and so much better and so aligned. It's just, I think it's vital to any pregnancy to have chiropractic care. If not the whole time, like I'm obviously blessed enough to have it before, during, and after, because that's my husband. But even just, whenever you can get it done, and have your baby adjusted as well. So important to have your babies adjusted. It was so beautiful and such a blessing to watch my husband adjust our babies at an hour old. As soon as they were on their placenta for about an hour each, and then once the cord was cut, to watch him adjust our babies, like, oh my gosh, some of the most beautiful moments of my entire life, and for his too. Like that's everything. So absolutely, if you're in the Windsor area.
Well, good seeing both you women.
You too. Love you guys very much.
Bye.
Thank you for everything.
Thanks everybody for listening. You can find us at Born Wild Podcast on Instagram. For inquiries or feedback, you can email us at bornwildpodcast@gmail.com. You can find me, Emma Ray, on Instagram at Emma Ray, REA.
Sophia at sophiabirth.com.
And me, Leah, at Bay Area Home Birth.
We would really appreciate it if you would rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It helps us reach more people. And as always,
stay wild.